In today's video we're going to be jumping back into the awesome Space Marine 2, and for this one I'm going to be going over what I believe are the best and most powerful weapons currently in the game. If you want to know which guns to focus on, which melee to invest your hard earned time and resources into, then this video is going to be the one for you. So first off, we're going to be going over the primary weapons, and I'll be going over the top ones that I believe you should be really focusing on. And the first one we're going to be going over is going to be the Las Fusil, and this is going to be your sniper rifle. My favourite one, I must admit, is going to be the Aphelion Liberation Alpha, as it hits like an absolute truck and has got a great amount of magazine capacity to it. I personally prefer the Las Fusil rifles over the standard sniper rifles, but again, it is down to your preference. This weapon is just amazing for hitting those tough high health enemies, and if you can, try to get those headshots whenever possible, because that's where this will really shine. The great thing about this though, you can also get some perks on it that it gives you a little bit of leeway because you get a bigger radius to its actual beam size. I absolutely love this weapon, and I found it's probably one of the best ones in the game for taking on the chaos side of missions, and a few things you may well want to focus on in order to take full advantage from this amazing weapon will be Adamant Restoration. When your health drops below 30%, your ammo reserve is now restored by 25%. Currently, I'm not sure if it's a bug or intended. The great thing about this, when you toggle onto your secondary and then go back to your primary, this actually does it every single time, allowing you to have some more infinite ammo if you're at that 30% health mark. I'm not sure if this is intended or a bug, but it definitely helps you out to survive when you're in a sticky situation with low health. Headhunter, because headshots are definitely going to be a thing with this weapon, make sure you deal 10% extra more damage, and even though I haven't put it on here, if you can get some beam radius, that will definitely help you to hit all your targets. Other than that, for the sniper class, Squad Renewal is absolutely amazing because it means a headshot will restore ability charges by 10% for all of your squad members. Everyone can do this because it's a team perk and it's one of the best ones coming in the game. And Targeted Shot, the first ranged attack that breaks Camo Cloak, deals 75% more damage. Perfect, give yourself a bit of time, make sure you get that headshot when you've activated your Camo Cloak and dish out a lot of damage afterwards. From a long-range, hard-hitting weapon over to one that I think is one of the best and probably best ballistic weapon in the game, as well as being one of the most fun options, and that's going to be this one right here, the Bolt Rifle. My favourite one has to be the Gallifamore Crusade with Grenade Launcher. You're going to want to make sure you're using that Grenade Launcher because that's the kind of creme de la creme on this weapon, and it gets you an abundance of takedowns. It makes sure that you dish out massive amounts of damage. You can do great single target, you can do area effect, taking out the smaller Tyranids, and it's just a ridiculously good gun overall. Even without the Grenade Launcher, this is a really nice weapon, but with the Grenade Launcher it becomes S tier and hits like an absolute truck. It's got some amazing stats, nice amount of range for it. The only thing you do have to watch out for is when there's a few people around taking on enemies, because if they're hitting them as well, sometimes you can miss your mark because the grenades aren't the fastest firing. However, it is definitely worth investing in, and a few perks you may want to look at would be the extended magazine, because now you're going to have magazine size increased by 15%, and this is going to affect your mag as well as your actual grenades. In my opinion, taking advantage of these grenades is definitely well worth it. And for your class perk, if you are using a tactical class, Emperor's Vengeance means taking out a Majoris level or higher enemy is going to restore your primary ammo by 1 magazine. Absolutely amazing, although on my game I did find I had to do takedowns in order to get back the grenades. But I've heard some people say that it didn't affect them and they could get it back very easily. Remember, this is every 30 seconds, but having almost infinite ammo and grenades is definitely a crazy thing on some of those moments when the Horde is attacking you and you watch as waves of enemies just fall by the wayside because you're grenade launching everything in the area. Now the next weapon almost definitely needs no introduction, and that's going to be the Melter Rifle. If you're new to the game, you may want to learn about this very early on because it is an absolute monster and could dish out a really nice amount of damage to single target, but more so taking out those groups of ads is an absolute breeze with this thing. If you want to be tackling a lot of enemies at once, you want to be just smashing through the enemies without worrying too much, then this weapon is just a go-to choice at the moment for ease of use and just tackling the enemies head on. There's a few things you can get with this. If you can up its damage, that's absolutely amazing because you will want to be dishing out as much as possible, but I really liked Perpetual Fire because fire rate is increased by 10%. And extended magazine, again, just helps you to make sure you take out everything in your vicinity. This is one of the very most powerful options in the game. It's a lot of fun to play with, and taking out Tyranids feels just so good with this weapon, although I did find up against some of the Chaos missions it wasn't quite as good. Nowhere near bad by any means, but because of its close range it didn't have quite as much effect on some of the tougher foes, and would take several shots in order to take them down. Now, if you can up the damage on this weapon, that's absolutely ideal because you want to be focused fire in this. Again, if you're playing as the tactical class rather than the Vanguard class, take advantage of the Emperor's Vengeance. But even if you're not, you're going to dish out a lot of damage with this, and Vanguard is great with this weapon as well because he's going to grapple into the vicinity of everyone and then absolutely melt them at close range. The only real downfall with this, it doesn't have the most amount of ammo count to it, so depending on what class you're picking, that could be a bit of a hindrance. Other than that though, just a top pick and an amazing choice to have for any character that can wield it. Now, if I was going to be picking one weapon to be the absolute daddy at the moment, the biggest, the baddest, does ridiculous damage and just takes out whole hordes of mobs very, very fast, as well as dishing out some great single target damage, then it's going to have to be the Multi-Melter. Unfortunately, this is only available for the heavy class, but once you start leveling this up, you'll realise just how powerful it is, dishing out great amount of damage, more ammo than the standard melter. Obviously, still goes through multiple enemies, but now if you're picking a few things up in the actual weapons perk tree, when you go into its additional stance, its heavy stance, which on console is when you go into your kind of zoom and then go into a zoom once more by using the analog stick, then this will be able to increase its damage once more. For a weapon that already hits hard, this is just a massive bonus, but be careful as it does focus in your perspective quite a lot, so you can get caught out from the sides and such. Most times though, you'll be dishing out so much damage, you'll be taking things down without having to worry about this so much. Some amazing class perks for this will be heavy fire, so while you're in that heavy stance, your fire rate is going to be increased by 15%. Heavy might, while in heavy stance you deal 15% more damage, and again another nice perk for it, but this time from the class itself, is going to be multi-kill. Killing 5 or more enemies with one shot from a multi-melter restores the ammo by 1. This thing is amazing in combat, great close range, not bad medium range, terrible long range, and also pretty decent whenever you're defending against those enemies with your kind of melee. Even though it doesn't state anything, I think this might have built-in kind of fencing or at least balanced, so all in all this weapon is an absolute menace to enemies and can help you take down the biggest bats in the game. The only thing I would struggle with a little bit of this sometimes might be something like a Zoanthrope if it's one of the boss types, because they can be quite tough when you're very close range to them, but other than that, this is the go-to for smashing everything to pieces and not having to worry about too much most times when you're doing it. Over to my favourite secondary weapon, and obviously there's not a huge variety to go over, but my favourite one is just a tried and tested great weapon with all around stats. My favourite one has to go to the bolt pistol because you can use it on pretty much any class. It's got very nice well-rounded stats to it, easy to aim, easy to get headshots if you want to, and just overall does the exact job you need it for, which is being able to take on enemies with it until you can hopefully get back your primary ammo instead. My favourite one has to be the Aphelion Liberation Alpha because this one gives you a high amount of ammo capacity, perfect for if you're in a bit of a clutch situation, and although it can't hit quite as hard as some of the other weapons such as the plasma pistol, I found this one just perfect as an all-around easy weapon to use whenever my primary was out of ammo. Some perks I've definitely grabbed with it: just keep it simple, extended magazines so that you've got a little bit more to your mag size, and Divine Might giving you an increase to your damage works absolutely ideal on this. Now lastly, we're going to be jumping into the melee weapons, and there's two that I'd highly recommend you invest in, one of which is going to be the Chainsword, quite an iconic weapon, absolutely amazing on any Space Marine, and my favourite one, I must admit, has to be the Colar's Teeth. This one is very devastating, boasting 15 to its strength, and if you like a slightly slower paced playstyle, then this one's absolutely ideal. You'll get some massive amounts of damage with this, wide swings, nice arcing combos, and a great thing is when you do your 4-hit combo, you can finish it with a stamp, perfect for giving you a bit of breathing space, and a bit of additional area damage in the process. I absolutely love this weapon, and it can be chucked on pretty much any class, except for the sniper, and of course the heavy, which doesn't actually have a melee weapon. Other than that, a few things I would say are noteworthy is definitely trying to pick up some perks that help you out in the heat of battle. I found Crushing Heal to be absolutely amazing. Enemies hit by Stomp deal 30% less damage for 4 seconds, and of course Reverberating Impact works hand in hand with this, where a Stomp area effect radius is increased by 50%. Try and put that into your rotation, try and get in the mix of things, the kind of smaller ads, or even hit some of the tougher enemies with this if you're managing to get out of the way of their damage, and you'll have a lot of fun with this weapon, as well as help yourself and the group out by negating a bit of damage overall. Finally, my top pick for the melee weapons is going to be this one right here, the Power Sword. absolutely amazing, and even though the playstyle takes a little bit of getting used to, once you get down you become an absolute menace to the enemies. Obviously this one is only available for the actual Bulwark class, but it's really nice to use. It feels very fast, it's stylish, and it's great for tackling multiple enemies or single target because of its unique playstyle, where you can change it from a speed style or power style whenever you want to. Switching it up is definitely something you want to do, because then you'll be able to take advantage of a little bit of extra damage, and of course, like I said, the playstyle will be slightly different depending on which one you're using. I found this took a little bit of getting used to, the style of which you've got to play with this, and when I first started off with it I was absolutely awful, but once you get to grips with it and you start getting your kind of perks on your Bulwark as well, things work hand in hand, and you can dish out a lot of damage in a nice area effect with this, cut through waves of enemies and really help your team out in the process. Some perks you're definitely going to want to take advantage of are going to be Cutting Edge for the weapon perk. Power Rake now deals 50% more damage. This actually allows Power Rake to do some significant damage in the right playstyle, and Master of Offense, after switching your sword combat style you do 20% more melee damage for 5 seconds. Cooldown is 10 seconds, but you'll find yourself doing this constantly, so don't worry, you're going to have that buff very often. And then for the class itself, I would say have a look at the ones I've put on here. Defensive Advantage is really going to help you out for getting that shock area effect. Shock and Awe means that enemies in that are now going to take 25% more damage. And Invigorating Icon is just amazing for your team, for yourself, and just keeping everyone alive, because when the banner is activated, all your squad members are going to regain their lost white contested health. Overall, this is my top pick for the melee, and all of these weapons are absolutely amazing to invest in, so hopefully you save yourself some resources that you may have spent on something that's not quite as good. Unfortunately, I haven't put anything in here for the actual Assault class at the moment. If you are going to go with that, obviously it will be the Hammer. That is a really good choice with that, but overall I think that class kind of needs a bit of a rework, and even though I've got all of these to 25 now, that's still the one I struggle with most when I'm running through those Ruthless missions. But yeah, hopefully it's helped all you guys and girls out. As always, there'll be a lot more content away from me. For now, take care. I'll see you on the next day.